Hi ladies, I'm Pidge.
And I'm Moen.
Welcome to the Night Shift Court podcast. We are two shift-working fantasy book lovers and love nothing more than leaving reality behind for a bookish adventure.
Join us as we go under the mountain to discuss our favourite fantasy fiction tales and the authors behind them.
Come with us to explore the stories, one shift at a time. Hi ladies.
Hi! Welcome back.
That was good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Good.
I feel like it's singing lessons,
Yes.
but just for 20 seconds
Felt
every
like
time we record.
Literally 3 seconds perhaps. Oh my goodness gracious groceries. Episode 18. Legal age in Australia.
Yeah, yes.
Fab.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact if you're not listening from Aussie. So we're going to be discussing chapters 31 through 35 of A Court of Mist and Fury. And it's really getting interesting now because we've got some different courts that we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
This is the fourth with Under the Mountain being its own court. Yeah, so this will be the fourth court that we're going to talk about.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So Cassian and Feyre are training yet again. She's trying. She's doing better.
Yes.
I think she gets better as time goes on, definitely.
Yeah.
There's still been no word from the letters sent out to the summer court.
Yeah, they're taking their sweet time, aren't they?
Yeah. So they've sent a letter to them asking to visit, essentially.
Yeah.
No word back from them. Also, no word back from the spring court.
Yes.
From the letter that Feyre has sent to Tamlin.
Not surprised about that.
No.
He's definitely cocooned himself away,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I didn't expect a response.
Nah. What's he going to say? Okay, Dal, no worries.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, thanks for the message.
Yeah. They also haven't heard back from Feyre's sisters yet or the Mortal Queens.
Yeah.
So if you remember, the Mortal Queens were going to respond to Feyre's sisters, and then Feyre's sisters are being visited by Cassian every now and again to check and see if there's any update.
That's right.
So no one is writing back at this point.
They're very much being left on red.
Yeah. Feyre recalls a memory from 2 nights ago where they made her go out to Rita's. Oh, so if you remember.
I love Rita's, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last time when they went out for dinner, Feyre didn't want to go dancing at Rita's, but the other 3 did. She went home with Rhys. Yeah, nothing happened. So 2 nights ago they did go to Rita's, and Feyre recalls how her and Asriel were sitting in the corner booth together, and they made up a little game where between them they would guess which female would work up the courage to ask Rhys home.
I love that.
I love it for their relationship, right?
Yeah, because Az is a bit, reserved.
Yeah.
And Feyre equally is a bit tentative around him.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're like using Rhys as a pawn to develop their own little bond is quite heartwarming. Yeah. But also hilarious because you can imagine Rhys just getting accosted by all of these women.
Yeah. Apparently Asriel was right every single time.
Of course he was.
Won the game.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if maybe his shadows had something to do with that.
Yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah. So there you go. Rhys arrives during Feyre and Cassian's training session and informs them that they have now heard back from the summer court.
Finally.
So 1 out of 4.
Yep.
There you go.
That's good.
He announces that himself, Feyre and Amren will be the ones going to the summer court. Mm-hmm. Cassian is absolutely not happy about that, and he asks Rhys to go as well, and Rhys turns him down, and they actually allude to the fact that Cassian has been to the summer court and that the trip didn't go very well, and that he now has a lifetime ban from the summer court.
He definitely banged someone that he shouldn't
He
have.
did, yeah.
Surely.
Yes. That was my thought too.
What else could you have possibly done? You know, he hasn't started a war. He's definitely banged someone he's not meant to have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, Rhys is like, no, you're not going. Anyway, they don't actually say anything else about it. They just sort of allude to that fact and then they move on.
Yep.
Rhys goes to leave and Feyre sort of follows him. They have a little bit of a joke about their little magical note passing that we talked about last episode.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep. They're sexting.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And Feyre's like, oh, you're unable to resist the temptation to, write to me. Don't High Lords have much better things to do than to pass notes around like children. Rhys actually is like, well, I'm unable to resist that, just like you're unable to resist watching me while we're out. So he's obviously taken note of what had happened at Rita's.
Yep.
Yeah, and knew that Asriel and Feyre were watching him.
Yeah. She's not very stealthy in regards to trying to keep shit under wraps. And she's not even admitting any sort of crush feelings, anything, even readiness to be anything other than a flirt at the moment.
Yeah. Well, she's not being subtle in this, but she's also not being subtle. Do you remember last episode where she like peruses his chest?
Yeah.
And
tattoos
like, and just like looks down. Yeah. So I'm like, well,
the V and the whoop.
Yeah, that's not subtle.
No.
She's not very good at that at all.
Yeah.
So Feyre says to him, you know, you haven't been able to keep away from me since Cal and Mai.
Yes.
And Rhys has a cheeky little laugh and actually like flicks her on the nose and then winnows away.
Yeah. Cute.
Which is very Rhys.
It is. So they're off to Adriata, the castle city of the Summer Court.
Yep.
And the High Lord, as we've discussed about these High Lords before, the High Lord of the Summer Court is Tarquin.
Yep.
Described as having rich brown skin, white hair, and the eyes of crushing turquoise blue, which obviously he has the power of water manipulation.
Yes.
So as we've talked about, their appearance usually embodies the powers that they actually have as well. So he is the cousin of the princess and the prince of Adriata. So these two are Crusader, the princess, and Varian, the younger brother. He's the prince. And they welcome them reasonably amicably, and they sort of usher them into the summer court.
Yeah.
Tarquin is particularly interested in Feyre.
He is. Did you notice though, when they first arrived, what Amren said?
I can't remember, but
she's again, I'm loving her sick. So she looks Tarquin up and down, and she doesn't bow, she doesn't nod her head, curtsy, none of that. She just looks him up and down and says, "At least you are far more handsome than your cousin. He was an eyesore." Condolences, of course.
That's right. Yes, she is a burner, isn't she?
She is, yeah. She's such a firecracker. I love her.
Good.
Feyre mentions when they arrive about, she describes the summer court and how beautiful it is, but she mentioned something that really bothered me, which was about the seagulls, like flapping and clawing, whatever it is, in the sky. Which is, I don't know about you, but I grew up on the coast and seagulls are incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
Like when they want to chip.
Yeah.
And they're like annoying you for one.
I'm not a fan of the old seagull.
Yeah.
Because they do ruin the beach for you.
So that, I feel like the summer court already is not for me.
Not
because I would just get sick of hearing about the seagulls.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Yes, fair.
Yeah.
So they're being introduced to one another, and like I said, Tarquin's particularly interested in Feyre, so much so that he does let his eyes wander quite a bit and finds himself perusing the deep V of the gown that she is donning.
Yes.
And Rhys obviously is tracking every movement of Tarquin's eyes and says, I can't even say it. You say it.
Her breasts are rather spectacular, aren't they? Delicious as ripe apples. This, for me, was a moment where I would spit my water. I was not expecting like him to describe her breasts as spectacular and then like the added bit of delicious as ripe apples. Like, can you imagine someone giving you that compliment?
Look, if Rhys gave it to me, I'd be quite thoroughly impressed.
Yeah.
I think that the funny thing is Rhys is uncomfortable about Tarquin perusing Feyre.
Yes.
But instead, because he's so cool, instead of being uncomfortable, he's like, right, I'm going to make a joke about this and I'm going to call it out because Feyre's obviously noticed. Tarquin's not being subtle at all about this.
No.
So he's called it out, which I love.
Yeah.
Rhys tells them of the imminent war with the King of Highburn. That's obviously why they're there, right?
Yes.
Tarquin's very junior. He's untested as a High Lord. So, and Rhys always tends to get his way. And Tarquin goes on to describe Rhys as someone who keeps his plans to himself and he doesn't reveal them until he's already executed them.
I think he refers to him as like being notoriously difficult to deal with.
That's right. Yes. So Tarquin notes he's worried Tamlin might go to war himself over Feyre.
Yeah.
And Feyre was like, what? He wouldn't do that for me, would he? She actually asks Rhys about that a little time later.
She does, yeah.
So much so that Rhys even says, well, would that please you?
Would it win you?
I think that he's almost saying, well, if I did that for you, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't say it, but you get the feeling that like if someone's going to go to war, would that mean something to her?
Yeah. I think he's gauging where she's at as well. Because I think he knows her well enough to know that killing other people is not something that she's impressed by.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure if she realises that herself because it's Tamlin.
Yeah.
Like she'll think it's the noble thing to do because it's Tamlin and he loves her and he's so desperate to be with her.
Yeah.
But she actually needs to step outside of herself and realise that what he's potentially talking about is war against another court for her.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
So Crusader is a bit cagey in this instance, and she notes that the law states that as Tamlin's bride, if he wanted to ask Tarquin to return her to him, then he would have to do so.
Yes.
And Rhys says promises, not threatens, promises that if anyone sends word to Tamlin that their life will be forfeit.
Yes.
So he is putting his foot down.
Yeah.
And you see that Court of Nightmares Rhys come out.
Yeah. So after Rhys promises death to anyone who reports Feyre's whereabouts in the summer court to Tamlin, Tarquin's like, settle down, it's all fine, you're our guests. And to celebrate, I'm going to throw you a party.
Oh, of course.
And he's going to throw a party on, and I quote, his pleasure barge. I'll say it again, pleasure barge. Look, what is that?
So obviously a barge is a boat.
Yeah, but
Pleasure barge denotes that there's some pleasure that happens on that boat.
I feel like it was innocently written, but as a dark romance reader, I see an entirely different thing because a barge to me is not a boat, but like a flat wooden, like a floating surface.
Yes.
With pleasure.
So that you walk onto the barge and there's an orgy.
Exactly what I pictured.
Sure.
And I was like, that was not a good enough reason to use the word pleasure barge, Sarah. It was not.
Classic.
That night they're all given rooms.
Yep.
So 3 rooms that are connected by a living room essentially, and Rhys enters Feyre's bedroom that night to have a little chitty chat about the day.
Yeah.
He reveals that he actually quite likes Tarquin.
Yes.
And that he essentially says to Feyre, don't get caught because I don't want Tarquin to know that we've found and taken the book. And I want to remain friends or allies with him.
It's a really difficult political position because they effectively are going there to steal something and try not to damage a relationship that is otherwise quite good as far as High Lords of 2 different courts go.
That's right, yeah.
So, it's only going to end messy as we find out.
So they get onto the barge that night and Feyre makes an effort to spend as much time with Tarquin as possible. They have a chat and she actually asks to see his treasure collection, for lack of a better word, and he accepts. So that's sort of her first attempt at seeing what wealth the summer court has.
Yeah, and trying to find the book.
Yeah, at the same time, it's a bit of a cover. Tarquin reveals that he would also like to remove the divide between the High Fae and the Lesser Fae, and that's something that Rhys has been trying to do for many years.
Yes.
So, which is again probably the reason why he quite likes Tarquin.
Yeah.
Rhys potentially would have read Tarquin's mind and knows that this is on the cards for him.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably another reason that he quite likes him. Feyre considers that maybe they should just ask him for the book instead of stealing it.
Yeah. She says that would be hard because there's not necessarily trust there
that's
yet.
Right. So
so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And Feyre says to Tarquin, she's like looking at him and thinking, and he says, tell me what that look means. And Feyre says to him, I'm thinking that it would be very easy to love you and even easier to call you my friend. And he says, I would not object to either.
Yeah, it's a really nice relationship that they have. And I almost like if you wanted Feyre to have the easy way out, you could go, put them together.
Well, she thinks about it. She actually thinks about it. So she realises she sees Rhys and Cressida flirting.
Yes.
And she realises how lonely and unhappy she is.
Yeah. She notes the actual emotion she feels for the first time, not the emptiness.
That's right. Yeah. And she realizes that Rhys has been, I'm not going to say filling that hole. Rhys has been.
I am leaving that in the edit.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
She realizes that Rhys has been like flirting with her.
Yes.
And she thinks about Tarquin and about how easy it would be with him. Mm-hmm. But she has this sort of epiphany that even though Tarquin has been through a lot under the mountain, as they all had, that he would never know or understand the suffering and the darkness that Feyre has inside of her.
Yes.
And that he would never be able to overcome that.
Yeah.
And so she realizes at that point that he's not someone that she could be with.
Yeah.
Because she still thinks that she's broken.
Yeah.
And that he wouldn't understand it.
Interesting that she doesn't think that about Rhys. So Tarquin, just a bit of background. So Tarquin's cousin, Nostrus, was the previous High Lord.
Yep.
And obviously he was killed. And then the cities were ransacked. Mm-hmm. Amaranth had pretty much destroyed them immediately when she took over. And then they were all summoned to Under the Mountain. Now, the fairy that was killed under the mountain when the fairy was trying to escape was Brutius. And he was Nostrus's younger brother, also a cousin of Tarquin. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason that Tarquin and Rhys have a good relationship is largely because Tarquin realises that Rhys, and he bang on picks it. He says that he believes Rhys tried to protect everybody by appealing to Amarantha, being her whore, essentially.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sure that Rhys mercy killed Brutius.
Well, Tarquin knows that Rhys saw Brutius's real reason for leaving Under the Mountain.
And that there were others involved.
Yeah.
And he protected the others.
Yeah. Well, he protected the summer court by killing Brutius instead of
everyone.
Instead of everyone. And he also protected him in killing him rather than just taking his mind and turning him into an unresponsive shell, essentially. So
it's a really interesting dynamic, and it makes me feel like uneasy, essentially, because they're there to fuck them over.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, but so much good.
Yes.
So the night on the pleasure barge comes to an end, and they all get off the boat, and
no orgy.
No orgy, sadly. And Rhys and Cressida have disappeared to the night.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Feyre wakes up after a nightmare. So this is the first one that she's had in a little while as well. She takes a little while to come back to where she is because she's obviously in a different room in a different court when she wakes up. She starts thinking about Rhys and starts to question if like his flirting and his little notes and things like that were just a way of him stopping her from breaking because he needs her as his weapon, as opposed to I think she was sort of going down the track of using it as a distraction, but she was gaining feelings for him that she doesn't want to acknowledge, but that she knows are there. Yeah. So after seeing him last night, she's thinking, oh, is this actually the case?
Yeah. She says something like, I hoped that he was as lonely as I am.
Yeah, yes.
And I was like, oh, that's painful, isn't it? Because now he's kind of, and he's got no love for this chick.
No.
But he's, like
he's a great actor.
He is a great actor. And she's falling for it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's so painful to watch the slow burn, but it's good, but it's bad. It is worth it, yeah.
So she gets ready. She goes to meet Tarquin. Rhys is there as well, but she completely ignores him, doesn't look at him at all, and gives Tarquin a super smile.
Yeah.
Which, as we learn, really pisses Rhys off.
Yeah, so she can feel something on the other end of her shields.
Yes.
And she just gives Tarquin this like smug grin. Yeah. And then she feels nothing against the shield. And she's like, good, bye.
Yeah, she's bitter.
Yeah.
So Tarquin takes her to his trove, or one of the many troves that the summer court has, and it's overflowing with like pearls and gems and jewels and armour and swords and daggers and all, like beautiful gowns and basically like a
trove.
Yeah, literally a trove.
Literally.
Feyre asks Tarquin what's the most valuable item in the room, and he says I'd say I'm looking at the most valuable thing in here when he's looking at her, and it's cringy.
It's a come on strong because he doesn't know anything about this chick.
No.
Yeah. If
I
you
cringed when I read that. I was like, oh.
Well, this is a first date, so let's put that in like mortal realm stuff.
Yeah.
If someone said that to you on a first date and they had no context about your life, you'd be like, oh.
Yeah. I was uncomfortable.
Yeah. I've just got to go to the toilet, and then you'd be like, come and get me to your mate.
Feyre's attention snags on a necklace of black diamonds and Tarquin gifts it to her. So again, imagine a first date. He says that you're the most valuable thing and then gifts you a black diamond necklace. I would be creeped out at this point.
I am likely to take the necklace and just have it checked for like tracking devices and then be like, bye.
What, like sell it?
No. It depends. If it was like really beautiful, I would wear it. But if it was like really valuable, I'd be like, good.
I wouldn't touch it.
Would you not?
Oh, it's probably cursed.
Oh, Harry Potter vibes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Can you do that again?
I don't know if I'll be able to.
Do not edit that out.
Oh,
Dead.
honestly, if you are watching only on Spotify, you are missing out. My facial expressions are world class. So
They make the video cast. They really do. Okay. So Tarquin takes her to a few other rooms, but no book that Feyre consents.
No book.
She returns to her room and Rhys is lounging on her bed like he owns it.
Yeah, he's so cocky. Love it.
They have a little chat where Feyre basically straight out asks him, did you sleep with
fuck
her?
her?
Yeah. And I love that she can't hold it in, right? Like, because typically she's the sort of person that would just be like, oh, I'll just leave it. I won't mention it. It's not important. My mission here is to do this, blah, blah, blah. But she just can't stop it from coming out of her mouth.
Relatable. Sorry, if this was me, I'd be like, so what happened last
Before the door's even closed.
Show me your phone.
Show me your magical notes. Rhys reveals that he didn't sleep with her, but he took her out onto the town for some drinks and then walked her back to her door, the classic gentleman. He reveals that he's jealous because Feyre smiled, as we talked about before, at Tarquin. And he talks about how loving or being with Tarquin would be easy because he doesn't live his life with a target on his back and that poor Rhysy will never have that.
Yes.
Which is true and really sad.
Yeah, it is sad. And I think Rhys has accepted the loneliness for so long, which is why he doesn't even bother really.
Yeah.
Even though he has offers of pussy left, right, and centre.
I thought you were going to stop with offers. That was enough. That was enough.
I wanted your reaction and it was worth it.
God.
Yes.
I'm the only serious one that does this podcast, just like everyone was wondering. Okay, so they then do their little cheersy thing. I'm going to start again.
I'm trying to work out how you're serious when you said baptise a cat yesterday.
I'm just warming up. They have a cheers. Stop looking at me like that.
Sorry, I will not look at you.
So Feyre says to the people...
I looked at you on there. Okay.
So Feyre says, to the people who look at the stars and wish, and Rhys says, to the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered.
Yeah, probably the most quoted thing from the entire series, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. So 2 days have passed, still no sign of the book.
Yep.
And Feyre ends up spotting a building that's only revealed when the tide is out.
Yeah.
So obviously, elementally, there's a lot of things that connect things in this court to water because of Tarquin's water manipulation.
Yeah.
So she believes that's where the book's being kept. So they're at dinner and we're sitting around the table and Feyre happens to mention the temple and she says she can see this building. It's really interesting because I haven't seen it before.
Yep.
And immediately there's a reaction between Cressida and Tarquin is like tense.
Well, they subtly sort of make eye contact with each other and Yep.
So Feyre's like, that's all the confirmation I need. And she accesses her Daemati magic here. So she enters Tarquin's mind because she's trying to soothe him into why she's asking questions around that topic. So she basically
she hears a few questions from his mind, doesn't she? And they're like, why is she asking about the book?
Yes.
What does she want with it? Why that specific spot that she's asking about? So he is thinking it.
Yes.
When she enters his mind.
Yeah. So she breezes over that and cools him down internally. Rhys comes to her room and he knows that she entered Tarquin's mind and he's like, wowza.
Yeah. Gives her a little compliment.
Yep. It takes people years to master that trick in that book.
Yeah.
And then
Amren arrives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I find interesting about this is, so she says, it seems like a stupid place to hide a book. And Rhys and Amren didn't arrive together.
No.
So they've obviously left dinner separately.
Correct.
How did she know? So either her and Rhys have been having a little mind conversation or, as I have always suspected with Amren, that she has some powers that she's not revealing and that we don't know about.
Yes. It's interesting because if she knew where it was, she should just say. I hope they're just having mind-to-mind discussions because if she does know things and she's just not telling them because they should find out for themselves, that's very annoying. It's like when your husband, tells you something but not the full story.
Oh, yeah.
You're like,
Didn't
ask.
Didn't ask. You're like, I think Amren is Daemati as well.
Okay.
But she is so old that she gives no shits about other people's thoughts.
So she only it just happens.
Yeah, that she doesn't sort of advertise it and use it.
Yeah.
That it just happens and she finds all of the mortal and fae's thoughts as so useless and uninteresting.
Interesting.
They don't even really register to her unless she bothers.
There's a lot to unpack with Amren, isn't there?
There is.
She's got so many layers. Like an onion. So they make plans to try and get into the temple that night.
That's it for this episode of the Night Shift Court podcast. Join us for next week's episode where we will continue the adventure from ACOTAR's Book 2, A Court of Mist and Fury.
Whichever platform you're listening on, we would so appreciate if you could give us a 5-star review. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Night Shift Court.
I hope the night is kind.